In the year 1860, along the banks of the Rio Grande, the frontiers of two nations trembled with uncertainty, where every shadow seemed to conceal an enemy and every twist of the river harbored danger. Juan Cortina, the bold and audacious Mexican guerrilla leader, had risen to infamy with his raids against American settlers. His name was whispered in both fear and defiance as he led his men in a relentless campaign, striking wherever the defenses of the frontier were weak. His fury was not without cause. Born of grievances over stolen lands and the treatment of Mexicans in Texas, Cortina's struggle against U.S. authority had become a symbol of resistance and vengeance. By early 1860, Cortina had mustered 300 men and set his sights on a prize of significant value, the Steamer Ranchero. Laden with $300,000 in gold, crucial freight, and innocent passengers, it lay anchored at Rio Grande City, waiting for its perilous journey to Brownsville. To Cortina, this was no mere act of robbery. It was an opportunity to strike a blow that would resound far and wide, shaking the confidence of the Americans who sought to dominate the border. He placed his men at Bolsa Bend, where the river's treacherous curve would slow the ranchero and leave it vulnerable to the devastating ambush he so carefully prepared. The die was cast. He intended to unleash chaos upon those aboard, to prove once again that the borderlands were his domain. Welcome to the shadows and the past, where history meets mystery and the past is your present. Hit the like and subscribe to join us as we delve into a world where the boundaries between survival and demise are as unpredictable as the winds that whip across the desolate landscapes of America's Old West. Cortina was not the only one preparing. In the midst of this storm stood Captain John "Rip" Ford, a man whose name was synonymous with steadfastness and courage. Ford, a commander of the Texas Rangers, knew the frontier's dangers all too well. He had fought in the harshest conditions, led his men through the most perilous skirmishes, and earned his reputation as one of the greatest leaders to ever ride with the Rangers. Now, he faced a challenge unlike any other: to protect the ranchero, its cargo, and its people from the brutal ambitions of Cortina. Ford, unlike his enemy, knew that success in this battle meant not only protecting a single ship, but safeguarding the very order of the frontier. In the days leading up to the fateful clash, Ford gathered his forces, a coalition of Texas Rangers, state troops, and cavalry under the command of Captain George Stoneman and Lieutenant Manning M. Kimmel. United under a common cause, they prepared to face Cortina's marauders. Their mission was as clear as it was daunting: rid the region of these robbers, secure the safety of the ranchero, and bring Cortina to heel. Ford devised a plan of action that reflected both his strategic genius and his understanding of the land. He ordered his men to patrol the bends of the river, seeking out Cortina's bands before they could strike. For days, Ford's patrols clashed with Cortina's raiders, small skirmishes that revealed both the strength of the enemy and the lay of the land. With each engagement, Ford's men gathered valuable intelligence, and with it, the certainty that a greater conflict was imminent. On February 4th, word reached Ford that Cortina's forces had massed at Bolsa Bend, ready to spring their ambush. Without hesitation, Ford set his men into motion, dispatching Corporal Milton A. Duty with a small detachment to disrupt any movement along the river. As Duty's men approached the bend, they encountered 30 armed Mexicans crossing the Rio Grande, and the Rangers immediately opened fire, scattering them, but the confrontation had only just begun. At that very moment, the ranchero, filled with unsuspecting passengers and crew, steamed into sight of Bolsa Bend. Cortina's trap was sprung, and his men, concealed along the riverbank, unleashed a torrent of gunfire upon the steamer. With the ship caught in the bend, there was nowhere to hide, nowhere to flee. Death loomed for those aboard, the inevitability of their doom underscored by the bullets that rained down upon them. But aboard the Ranchero was Lieutenant Lomas L. Langdon, a man of calm resolve. Though his detachment of regular troops was small and the enemy far outnumbered him, Langdon had a secret weapon, 2 field pieces captured from Cortina's own men in a previous engagement. In the face of near-certain destruction, Langdon ordered his men to open fire with the artillery, the thunderous explosions shaking the very ground beneath them. The artillery fire provided a moment of respite as Cortina's men scrambled to avoid the deadly barrage. Ford, never one to cower in the face of adversity, seized the opportunity. Though his men were vastly outnumbered, his will was unshaken. He dispatched Captain Peter Tomlinson and Major Tobin with a small detachment to cross the river and strike at Cortina's rear. Meanwhile, Ford's Rangers, with their characteristic discipline and precision, advanced slowly along the riverbank, returning fire with deadly accuracy. Cortina's forces, confident in their numbers, had not expected such fierce resistance. But Ford, undeterred by the odds, pressed forward. Cortina, sensing that his flank was at risk, began massing his men in a desperate bid to hold the line. But Ford had seen this move coming. As the 2 forces drew ever closer, Ford knew that the time for subtlety had passed. With a voice that echoed above the cacophony of battle, he gave the order, "Charge!" In a rush of fury, the Rangers surged forward, their 6-shooters blazing, cutting through the enemy with the precision of men who had faced death too many times to flinch. Cortina's men, their confidence shattered, began to waver, then to flee. From the deck of the Ranchero, the passengers watched in awe as the Rangers broke through the lines, their victory all but certain. The Texans' war cry rang out, clear, fierce, and unrelenting, while the Mexican forces crumbled under the weight of their assault. In the chaos of retreat, Cortina himself made a final stand. He fired his revolver at his pursuers, desperate to rally his men, but the Rangers were too close, their resolve too strong. Ford's sharpshooters took aim, and shot after shot whizzed past Cortina, one grazing his head, another cutting through his saddle, and yet another severing his bridle rein. But in the growing darkness, Cortina, by some stroke of fortune or fate, managed to escape, galloping away from the battlefield. The fight was over. The Rangers had won the day, and the Ranchero was safe. Out of Cortina's 300 men, 29 lay dead and 40 were wounded. Ford's Rangers, though few in number, had suffered but one loss. Private Fountain Woodruff, who met his end with a stoic courage that befitted the Rangers. The victory was hard fought, but it was complete. The battle at Bolsa Bend was not just a victory for Ford and his Rangers, it was a resounding statement to all who dared challenge the might of the Texas frontier. Cortina's forces had been broken, his ambitions thwarted, and his reputation diminished. Though he would continue his campaign of resistance in the years to come, this defeat marked a turning point, a moment where his aura of invincibility was shattered. In the end, it was not the numbers or the guns that carried the day, but the unwavering spirit of men like Ford, who refused to yield in the face of overwhelming odds. The Texas Rangers, outnumbered and outgunned, had proven once again that they were a force that would not be easily overcome. As the dust settled and the Ranchero sailed on to Brownsville, a new chapter in the annals of frontier history was written, one of courage, resilience, and victory against all odds. For those who fought at Bolsa Bend, the lesson was clear. When faced with peril, the only path is forward. Ah well, such is life in the shadows. If you'd like more secret stories of cunning, endurance, and iron resolve, hit the like and subscribe to ride along as we explore the secrets lurking in the shadows and echoing through the corridors of the past. And if tales like this one appeal to your rambling heart, click the link to get a first-hand account of iconic George Patton's impetuous introduction to campaigning through wild, rough terrain and thwarting cunning enemies at fast, close range. Welcome to the shadows and the past, where history meets mystery and the past is your present.